Opening up for tonight, I believe most of you know me, but my name is Sam. I am a graduate student and I'm filling in for gallery director at the moment. I am in the University Art Gallery. I am all by myself, which is why there's no thing on my face. The gallery is open, not right this hour, but it is open now physically to the public, and you can come by anytime and check out the pieces. The reception will be this Thursday from 4 to 6. So if you entered stuff into the show and you're curious to see like what awards you got and things like that, that's when you can find that out. Of course, you can also come by in person, but the reception.
Awards translated money.
Well, you know, money and then also recognition, you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, money. Prestige money. And title, I guess.
Money.
But for tonight, before we get into the reception, I wanted to introduce you all to our juror. His name is Mark Braught, and he's a nationally recognized award-winning artist that has created images for corporations, institutions, advertising agencies, publishers, and design firms, and is included in a number of permanent corporation and museum collections. In addition to his commission projects, he lectures and does workshops at schools, institutions, conferences, events, and organizations across the country, and has enjoyed teaching as an adjunct faculty member at the University of Georgia, Portfolio Center, Ivy Tech, Hollins University, and the Creative Circus. And he is also an ISU alumni. So please welcome Mark Braught. There's silent clapping sounds.
One hand clapping.
So yeah.
If a bear claps in the woods, does anybody hear it?
I don't think that's how that saying goes.
You're right. You're right. That's probably not.
Oh yeah.
I don't think bears clap anyway. There's nothing in it for them.
True. Okay, so why don't you?
Gotta go. Bye. It's been fun.
What? No. Why don't you tell us a bit about the work that you do now, a bit about your journey as an ISU alumni to now an accomplished artist?
Alleged artist. Let's leave it at
Alleged
that.
Artist.
Alleged artist. That's how I refer to it as alleged. Oh my gosh.
I spotlighted you. Sorry, surprise.
I saw that. Oh gosh, Figlet, look at you. You do look psycho. Oh my God, she just looks like she's just waiting to do something. I'm a dead man. If she starts to, yeah. And anyway, so let's see. I originally went to school at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. I finished my first semester there, and then I worked professionally. And just a side note, I went to art school to be a painter. They thought I was such a good painter that they put me in the design program. So that was kind of the end. They didn't think I was that good of a painter, and I should be in the design program. I was like, oh, okay. And I'd never even seen at the time T-squares and ruling pens and all that were kind of the tools of the trade. I'd never even seen one, let alone used it. But they thought my portfolio, I actually got advanced placement, and they started me as a sophomore. I'm going, now I'm really lost. But got a job at a small publishing house as a designer. So I left at the end of my first semester of my junior year, worked for a couple of years, decided I really wanted to finish my degree, and went to Indiana State. There were some people that were teaching there at the time that I was like, wow, I could really learn a lot from these guys. And they had an incredible faculty in the art department at the time. And so I'm like, well, I'll go there. So I went there, finished my degree, ended up starting a studio with one of the professors. We ended up being partners in a firm for about, I don't know, 10 years or so.
Who was that? Just curious.
Brian Miller in the graphic design department. So Brian and I helped start that agency which I think turned into Miller White, which was there a long time. And within the last couple of years, I think Brian finally decided to retire and literally go fishing. He loves to fish and he loves to mushroom. And to this day, he will not tell me. He go, oh, I'm going mushrooming. I go, well, we need to get a hold of you. Where are you going to be? No, I'm not telling you. We couldn't get a hold of him. I mean, and this was, it's like, we have projects. I need to, we need to talk. And he goes, I'll be back. And he very secretive about his mushroom locations, more so than his fishing holes.
I feel like everyone's like that. Anytime I ask anyone for mushrooms, they just say, no, you can't.
Right. They won't. They're very secretive about where they are, and they just disappear. And it's just this kind of, I'm not a big mushroom. Stores are made to have mushrooms, and so I get them there. Although I like morels, which seems to be the highly prized catch, but apparently they're hard to, if you find a stash, you don't tell anybody. So I worked there for a number of years, and then I went on my own. The studio decided to go in an advertising agency direction. I thought we were a really good studio, but I didn't think that we would be as good an agency, which has a different directive than a graphic design studio. So I went on my own, and one of the people I had gone to school with remembered that I worked in, I'd done illustration, and gave me an assignment, and it did really well, got a lot of recognition, and my career as an illustrator took off. So, but then I found, and then I think, what was it, in 99? I moved down to Georgia. I moved down to Georgia because combination of, I'd done an assignment with some resort down here in Atlanta. They had me down for a week to just kind of live in a suite and kind of come up with 10 paintings of my impressions of life there, which is pretty cool, actually. It was really a fun. They just gave me whatever you get, just put it on the room. I said, oh, you silly rabbits. And between that, and then they had announced that Atlanta was going to get the Olympics in '96. So I thought I would get down there, because no city, at least in the United States, has ever failed. I mean, things are good for artists in cities that have Olympics. There's a lot to be done. It's kind of national pride that, you don't want a failed city to do the Olympics. So it seemed like a great place. I liked the people. I loved the weather. And so I moved down. And then I've been on my own since '84. So,
Oh, wow. Okay. What kinds of things have you been doing lately that you can talk about?
Kind of weird. I still do graphic design. I did find that out at a certain point. I realized that clients have a difficult time thinking that somebody that can draw and illustrate can also be a graphic designer. And so I have two different websites. I have one for a design studio that I'm partners with. Actually, it turns out we're cousins. We didn't know that for like 4 or 5 years. We didn't know that. We'd worked together, and he'd made some mention of some family reunion. I'm originally from Iowa, and the name on the reunion was my grandmother's maiden name. I said, dude, we're related. I said, Iowa's too damn small. I said, in that part of Iowa, and it turns out we're like 5th or 6th cousins. And we've been working together, I don't know, 12 years or so, maybe a little longer. But I also have a website for illustration, which is just my name. So, and that's worked out really well. It's been real, because I like design. I think the thing I like about all of this visual communication is solving problems. So it doesn't matter if I just like the problem solving aspect of it.
Yeah. Which one
Did you like math?
Oh, never mind.
What?
Go ahead, Grace.
Sorry, Sam. I was going to say, since you like problem solving so much, did you like math?
I hated math, and I sucked at it. I need a calculator. I need a piece of paper and a pencil. I am horrible at math. I'm absolutely, even my partner, when he and I work on stuff and I'll rattle off, oh, that'll be this. He goes, no, you missed a 0. And I think, oh, I'm not the guy that does those calculations.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I don't. I mean, obviously it's too late to worry about it. You know, cows out of the barn. No, I'm just an idiot when it comes to math, and I know it. So that's a good thing that I do know that it's a weakness.
Yeah.
It's not a weakness. It's a serious flaw.
That's all right. It's what calculators are made for.
That's what was
Yeah.
that was my understanding, but
Oh, yeah. So out of the two, with graphic design and illustration, which one do you prefer to work better? If prefer is a good way
they
to
feed off
judge.
each other. I think they feed off
Yeah.
each other because it's all about, it's still, whether it's graphic design or, it's painting or, image creating like that, it's still about composition. It's still about focal point. It's all those things that are very basic to any visual communication. And the neat part, I like the idea of a goal. I like the idea of a concept, because it makes it personal to the problem that I'm solving. I mean, I know you can get a logo for 20 bucks or $100 on some of these sites, but they're so generic. It's like, what's it say about that company? Aside from the fact if it's a lawyer, it has the little scales and this and that, but what's it say about that attorney? And I think that's the neat. I've done packages. I've been lucky. I've been able to work on a large amount of different projects, everything from book design, logo design, well, they call it branding now, packaging. I've done exhibit design. I've gotten to do a lot of really fun jobs with illustration. Did the Kentucky Derby poster, worked with Warner Brothers on all the merchandising art for Harry Potter's first movie. It's been fun. I mean, I can't, I have no regrets. And the sad part is I didn't plan any of it. I mean, I really, like I said, I went to art school to be a painter. Well,
Yeah.
that it hasn't worked out anything I planned, but I've liked the path it's taken. I
Yeah.
had no intentions that I thought I'd always be working for somebody. I just didn't realize that'd be me. It's fun to fire me though. When I screw
Oh,
up, it's like, okay, fine, because I know he'll take me back.
that's
He has
true.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. What has been the most interesting problem you've had to solve?
Hopefully the next one.
Oh,
Um, they're all interesting in their own way. And that's the fun part. It's different. I think the neat thing is that I know a little bit about a lot because I have to do a lot of research, and I do a lot of research for anything that I work on. I don't know a lot about anything. But I know, so I'm good at a cocktail party. I know
yeah.
a little bit about a lot, and I can probably know something about whatever conversation's going on for about 2 minutes. And then I go, oh, I got to go. So I like that. I mean, so I get to continually learn.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes there are things I never thought I'd have to learn. But there was some interest, something interesting in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're all pretty cool for their own reason. And I kind of go at them blind. I go in with kind of hopefully a curiosity and not any set idea where it's going to end up. So I like
Yeah.
the journey part. I like the process.
What has been the maybe the worst or the least interesting problem then to solve that you can say without naming names?
Oh my gosh. The one that is always kind of frustrating, because I do a lot of kids books now,
Mhm.
is that I get a lot of people who have written a kid's book and they want somebody to illustrate it and they're going to self-publish. And they want me, and they don't realize the process of getting published. Now, I know you can self-publish, but they don't realize, I think they think we just kind of go in this kind of magically, it's kind of like that Norman Rockwell painting where he's, sitting in front of a canvas, scratching his head about what he's going to do. It's like, which is so opposite of how he did. He is so meticulous. He did everything so planned. The idea of just sitting in front of a canvas and just kind of letting it squirt out just didn't happen for him. But I know, like with the kids' books, minimum you're going to spend 6 months if you're fast, creating the images for a kid's book. So these people come and they say, it's like, well, I've got a budget. Okay, what's your budget? I think the most I've heard is like $2,000. And I'm like, okay, so I got to survive, pay bills and do on $2,000 for 6 months. You do that math real quick and you're going, well, that's not going to work. And I know that, and it's not to say that, and I do respect the fact $2,000 is a lot of money. And I know that they've scrimped and saved and to make this happen. And so I have to break it down and say, okay, here's exactly what you're saying. Here's my position. And because I don't want to tell them that, I don't want to laugh at them and tell them go away and all that, because they came to me and I'm flattered that they did, because they could go to anybody on the planet, literally. I mean, you've seen all these websites where you can look at artists' work, and somehow they've decided to call me. So I don't want to really give them a hard time. I just think they don't understand what they've asked. And so, and then and then they go, well, I get to own the paintings. And I'm like, no, you don't get to own the paintings. You get the rights to use it in your book, but I get to keep the paintings. If you want to keep the paintings, here's another price. They don't like that price. And I think that's another, I know that most art students, they keep saying, well, they need to have a business class. I think if they pay attention, a lot of their teachers probably talk about how to conduct business in the industry that whether you're a painter, ceramist, whatever, they probably touch on these subjects through the process of the class. It's just sometimes it gets missed or forgotten.
Yeah.
So I think those jobs are kind of frustrating. And then I don't know. Question, is there a job I really didn't like? There have been jobs that have been tough.
Oh.
Unfortunately, you kind of block those out and forget them. I don't think that everything any artist does in a year is probably their best work. There's some work that you do that they came to you and you're going to do the best, you do the best job you can. But on the other hand, it pays bills, and it sure beats, saying, would you like fries with that, sir? Will you stop that? What is with you? She's now wandering over the keyboard. Apparently I'm not spinning it here. You're going down.
Oh.
Thank you. So I think the goal is to kind of live indoors and eat. So if you can do that, doing whatever you're doing, I think you're ahead of the game. And sometimes that involves doing some jobs that may pay bills, but may not be your creative best.
Yeah.
I guess it's what's the end goal? You can say no to those. I mean, I know there was one job I said no to. This is when when I first started this. It was a group called Drunks Against Mad Mothers.
Oh.
And they asked me to do some work for them. I said, I can't do it, guys. I'm sorry. And I said, I can't do it. And they said, and they had really good budgets, but I'm going, I just can't get behind that cause.
Yeah.
And they were asking, have you ever had a drink and driven? I said, yeah, but I'm not going to encourage anybody else to do it. I mean, I'm not going to endorse this activity. I was just, yeah, there are some jobs that I've turned down just because it wasn't, it didn't fit. I didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think every creator has to kind of know themselves what's a line that's too far.
When you work on your illustrations, what media do you prefer to use?
I was lucky. back when I went to school, they kind of gave you this diet of learning how to work with a lot of media.
Mhm.
I think now the focus has changed, that you've got to find a style, which means you've got to pick a medium. They didn't expect us to have a style. So we learned how to work it on. I mean, I can do scratch board, printmaking, you name it. Primarily what most people call me for is pastel chalks. Because I've had some success with it, and it's kind of a dog chasing its tail. I like that work, do me another. So the next thing you know, you've got a lot of assignments that look like that stuff that they like. But I've got art director, I've done collage stuff for clients, oil paintings, you name it. It's fun. I mean, I like the idea that I'm not restricted. Usually the audience can they'll decide what they really like and what they're gonna, so that's what is dictated. Pastel's easy for me now because I've done a bunch of them, but I
Yeah.
enjoy doing other things. I mean, I did a little mascot for my local library, a little bee. I think I've done like 15 or 20 bees now because they want to bee for 4th of July, bee for Halloween. Halloween was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in one of the Franken bee, Dracula bee. Yeah, we did Dracula bee and did a ghost bee. And so there's all these bees. And I know there was one piece I did completely different. It was in oil. And this friend of mine that I went to school with, he was a judge in the show. And it got in the show. And he said, he goes, you need to go back. He goes, he didn't do that. That's not his work. And he called me up. I go, yeah, it's mine. He goes, what? And he goes, I didn't know you did that. I said, well, you never asked.
Yeah.
So I don't feel restricted. I think I'm going to be better at one or the other just because I get more practice at it. But I enjoy a lot of them.
Yeah.
I love printmaking.
Yeah. When I had talked to you recently, you had said that you were working on some digital too. How has that been going?
Well, digital is kind of, it's going. I mean, it hasn't gotten to the point to where I like what I'm doing.
Mhm.
It hasn't quite got what I want, but it's like any other medium. It just takes practice. I mean, I don't think digital makes things faster than conventional. It has some serious advantages. I love digital for doing ideas, thumbnails. I can breeze through 100 thumbnails, in a day, and then I have a lot to look at to decide where I want to go. And I can do that so much quicker digitally than I could conventionally, because Photoshop is a magical program.
Oh yeah.
I can cut and paste and piece things together differently, do all the different layers, do all that kind of stuff. Has some fun. It has some fun filters that would be really tough to sit down with a pencil to get where I can get the same results in like a split second, just the punch of a button. So I like digital. I mean, and I think there's no way around anybody not knowing at least how to, send a file. I think it's important. You got to have something. You can't stay completely off the grid digitally and expect to make a living doing whatever it is. I don't care if it's ceramics or jewelry or whatever. You're going to have to kind of join the club and deal with digital. That doesn't mean walk away from conventional. I think conventional has a lot of need to offer. It's just another media. It's no different than a paintbrush. It's just a different paintbrush.
Yeah.
It takes practice to get good at it.
I remember reading in your bio that you said that you were teaching at some other places as an adjunct. I'm curious to know what kinds of things that you were teaching or classes that you were teaching.
I have taught everything from copywriting to art direction. I had a creativity class I taught. That was fun because it had nothing to do with really any particular department. And so we just did, I mean, I had him design a chair out of cardboard, and to test whether they passed the class or not, we put it in the lobby, and if it lasted a week, they passed.
Oh,
And there was a list of stuff they could and couldn't do.
yeah.
Like you can't reinforce it with steel. It had to be it had to be made out of paper. And, you know, so combination of functionality and aesthetics and stuff like that. So, but the lasting a week was the ultimate test. They just,
Yeah,
we just sat
that's
them in
rough.
and encouraged people to sit in them, not dance on them, but sit in them, be kind. I've taught illustration, graphic design. Let's see. Oh, let's see, some things. Let's see, creating characters. I did that. I've done that. Which was a fun class too. Just the whole process of creating a character for whatever project you have. And just some of the thoughts behind what you should consider when you do that. I'm sure there's more, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was probably a longer answer than you'd hope for. You bit off more than you could chew on that one.
It's most of them are. And that's okay. One other thing, switching gears for a second, when you were jurying the show this year, what kinds of themes and things were you seeing, or what kind of pieces were intriguing you, I guess, or maybe like how were you making your decisions and things like that? If you can talk about that a little bit.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm
Never mind.
kidding. No. Yeah, I think, you know, I think it's always difficult, and I'm glad that you broke it into graduate and undergraduate.
Mhm.
Although I will say some of the undergraduate gave the graduate work a good run for its money. I look at it in three categories: creativity, execution, and what was the third one? I sent you that thing, and I can't remember
I
what
know.
the third one was. But at any rate,
Fundamental expertise.
yes. And so I kind of look at all three of those. I mean, I think creativity, which kind of goes towards concept, which can be, concept can be really simple. It doesn't have to be a complicated thing. It can be a very, you know, a still life has a concept. But then you know, you start looking at it, you know, how do you do that still life? Do you do it how most people do it, which is basically roughly arm's length away at eye level? Well, that's kind of, you know, you look at most of them, but every once in a while you see somebody do it from a different point of view, whether it's up high to low, or low to high, or they take a different angle, and that gives it a different feel than what we're used to. So I kind of weighed those out with a lot of things, and the ones that, you know, there were some that, you know, they might have hit 2 out of 3, but maybe they were a little weaker in one of the categories than one of the others. Because it's always tough. You've got all these entries that are very different expressions. I mean, you've got everything from video to sound, you know, to installation kind of stuff. And so you've got to find some sort of common denominator to make it fair. You know, so that a piece of ceramic can compete against, you know, a little video. And but I think that there's a way. There's one of those problem solving things. I had to sit down and think about that before I approached this, because you know, we talked, and that, you know, there wasn't like, okay, there's a ceramic category, and here's the best of ceramics, and here's the best of painting, and no, they're all kind of lumped together. It's like, okay, so how do you fairly, you know, look at these pieces, and, you know, and I know there's going to be unhappy people, which is probably good why I'm not going to be physically at the opening. Why would I? It's like a live bait in a chum tank. Nah, no, nobody would slash my tires.
I would hope not.
Well, yeah, well, we'll never know now, will we? but there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, and I tried to be, I think ISU has a good reputation, a history, of good work and stuff. And so I felt a responsibility to try to keep it to that sort of standard,
Mhm.
whatever that means, which is why I did the 3 categories and said, okay, I can be more objective if I have this goal. There's
Yeah.
another problem solving thing.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question? Not really.
I believe so. I think I
That's
was
a
just,
solid, I don't know.
oh, no, it's all right. I think I was just curious to see if there were any like themes that you were noticing throughout the artwork or something, or if there was just,
Well, I think,
yeah.
I think a lot of times, especially at the university level, there's a lot of angst and anger. Yes, sirree, Bob. And that's a common thing, but that's not ISU. That's every person in that rough age group, in that part of the whole journey of wherever it is they're going. And I think in some cases, the anger part is cool, but how do you focus that into a message?
Yeah.
To communicate with an audience instead of just being this kind of angry explosion. How do you explode in a way that gets people's attention
Mhm.
so that they actually listen to it and want to see your message and all that kind of stuff? That's a hard thing to do. I think, and if you look at, because there's artists that are always doing things to make statements and things, and some do it better than others.
Yeah. Okay. We've hit a point where I will now open the floor for any other questions from our viewers that we have.
Are there any left?
Oh, yeah. They're still here.
Oh, okay.
If you'd like to say
I figured it was
something,
just you and me.
I believe you can type in the chat or you can raise your hand, question mark. There's a feature that lets you do that, or basically you can unmute your mic and feel free to ask questions if anybody has any.
You said you worked on Harry Potter. How was that?
A lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. I did 30 pieces in roughly 40 days, and they're big pieces. I've got one of them at the house here somewhere. Are you a Harry fan?
Yes, I had a Harry Potter themed wedding.
Oh, really? How cool. Well, then you might, let me see. I think I can yank this off the wall.
All right. And now we just sit here as we wait for this.
I have to apologize. Oops, I didn't know there were questions at the end. Sorry, Sam.
Oh, it's okay.
I don't know if that is too reflective or not. Oh, it is. Look at it. We're seeing
It's a
the
little
screen.
reflective,
There.
yeah. You can
There,
kind
if
of
I
see
turn
it.
it sideways, it does.
That's beautiful.
Is that one? Do you remember? Does that piece ring any bells?
I think so.
Had a lot of cards with your illustration on them, like the little trading cards.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. The way this assignment worked, and the reason I worked, there's probably 30 or 40 covers for Harry Potter around the world, because the rights to publishing has been divvied up geographically. So like England has their cover of Harry, they have what they're used to seeing. We have what we're used to seeing for the covers of Harry on the books. And there's probably 30 or 40 different covers. But when it comes to merchandising, Warner Brothers, the contract read, they have the rights throughout the universe. I literally, it says that in the contract, which I have visions of kind of a Men in Black thing happening. Somebody showing up, no, we have rights here, and they vaporize us. But so all the stuff, whether it was lunch boxes, towels, throws, sheets, you name it, they had to get permission from Warner Brothers to do that. And that was the group that I worked with, Warner Brothers. And so they have the licensing rights for merchandise throughout the universe. So if you see a UFO with one of the Harrys on it, which would be cool. They even made money out of it in England. There's a coin they minted with the Harry with the wand. So, and I think I did the first, we did 30 paintings in roughly 40 days, and they're all that size. So I was doing one a day. And then there was a little bit of a break, and I did another 30 in about 39, 40 days. So there were roughly 60 paintings totally done for the merchandising.
Okay. We have a question that asks if you can talk a bit about your experience learning art via public schools.
I think it's probably not unlike a lot of people. I think when we're younger, we get more. They let us draw more. And as we move on through our public school education, we do less. And that's why everybody thinks they can be a writer. And nobody, as they get older, thinks they can draw. Because we spend a lot of our time in our public education writing. For some reason, that is just a constant. And as a result of that, though, but we do less and less of the art thing. And unfortunately, I think as time has marched on, a lot of those programs have really suffered. I mean, I know I was fortunate. We always had an art program. There was always an art teacher that was our art teacher, not one that traveled to a number of schools or anything like that. And I think, it's getting less and less. And I think it inhibits creativity in a lot of fields, including mathematics and stuff like that. As you start to cut that out, that abstract thinking thing, I think, is important. And as we, in a lot of school systems now, they've really put teachers in the corner. They have to basically teach kids to pass tests, as opposed to kind of helping them learn how to think. So I feel bad for being, wait a minute, Brad Venable. I remember you, buddy. How you doing? I just saw that name up there, and you're incognito on me.
I'm sorry. I am incognito. That's me.
That's okay. That's okay. I'd do the same thing, but I don't think they're going to let me.
No.
So yeah, I think that's the hard part. I think it's harder for kids. I see kids, when they come to college and stuff, they're more interested in doing something that's going to make me happy, which I refuse to give them a clue. They'll do anything that if they think it's going to make. I said, no, what would you do? Make a commitment here. Do something you want to do. It's not about me. I have a job. You need to do something that makes you happy. And so, but that's because they've been hammered so hard to do well on tests. And that's just, it makes it hard when suddenly someone says, well, do what you want. And they're like, oh my gosh, what if it's the wrong thing?
Yeah.
So what? I make a lot more mistakes than I do things right.
Yeah. We have another question that says, from Grace, who are the artists that influenced you?
Wow. When I was really young, I mean, there were, I liked some of the art in comic books, which have now become graphic novels. I loved a lot of stuff in Mad Magazine, and actually got to meet one of those guys. He used to live here in Georgia, and I met him, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a guy I would look at it, and this guy could draw. Let's see. I like Mary Cassatt. I like Degas, Eakins. I mean, there's this combination of fine art, and there were graphic designers, Milton Glaser, Herb Llewellyn, Paula Shear. I kind of took information in from a bunch. There were filmmakers that I thought that made cool. And it's funny, if you listen to Spielberg talk, he donated a lot of money to create the Norman Rockwell Museum out of guilt, because he said he had stolen from Rockwell's paintings so many times for scenes in his movies. They were inspired by paintings that he'd seen of Rockwell. So he dumped all this money into creating the Norman Rockwell Museum, which is, so there's this kind of dog chasing the tail thing. There's a number of guys that are alive that I love to look at their work. We kind of build our careers on the shoulders of everybody that came before us, and that's why I think it keeps getting better.
Yeah. All right, we have another question from Chloe. Says, related to the last subject, how much freedom are you given as an artist when you are making the children's book illustrations? I'm thinking specifically of Cosmos Moon, a personal favorite of mine when I was a kid.
Oh, you're kidding. Somebody who actually has read one of my books. You know what? Cosmos Moon was a rarity. The publisher sent me the manuscript, and they said, would you be interested in doing it? And I said, who do I have to kill? And that one came to me. I did the sketches, sent them off to them. They let me do whatever. I changed a couple of things. I mean, I know I changed. The only copy editing suggestion that I asked, because I mean, Devin Scillian, the guy that wrote it, he's a unique story in himself. I mean, he's kind of the Walter Cronkite of Detroit. And he's also he's won Grammys in Michigan for his music. He can do it all. And he's an incredibly nice guy, which makes it even worse. Said he wanted to learn how to illustrate. And I said, no, you got to leave something for all of us. But that one came, I think I added the letter S and the word scientists. He had originally written it with scientist. And which is why there's that one spread where the scientists always run in groups. You always see them in threes, which is kind of how I feel, because we don't know really what scientists say. We don't really understand it. But if a couple more of them go, yeah, they're right, we go, okay, that's good. So I always figure they run in packs. And that's all I said. It's like, I think it'd just be much more fun that there was a group of them, because we don't believe them otherwise. But that one kind of came in. I did the sketches. There was the only thing that there was conversation about. I thought I had this brilliant idea for a cover. Thank God I lost that argument, because I love the art. There was discussion whether the moon should have facial hair. Because, well, we talk about all these things. Should the moon have facial hair?
Yeah.
And so we kind of changed it to this little tiny soul patch and a mustache, and that was okay. But the original idea that I thought was brilliant just blew chunks. At the time, I thought it was brilliant. And like I said, I'm so happy I lost that argument. And that's normally there is a lot of back and forth. I even changed it that the black and white things, that was not part of the plan. I did those thinking it's like, well, we need snapshots of these things going on everywhere. So they literally became snapshots of all these things that happened when the moon didn't go away. And the publisher liked it. We kept it. But no, that was a rare one. Normally there's a lot of back and forth. I think I was probably told more what to do younger in my career. Now they're silly enough to go, what do you think, Mark? Be careful what you ask for. It's fun. I mean, and I think it's always tougher in the beginning. Where do you sit and decide? Because it is a very if you're not into collaboration, publishing is definitely not the direction to go. Everything's collaborative. I mean, everything from copy. I mean, everybody is, I know these festivals that literary festival, I get on these panel discussions, and there's always self-publishing is such a popular thing to do now. And the good and bad about self-publishing is that nothing is it's exactly the way you want it, for better or for worse. Misspelled words, dangling participles, things you never meant to say, but obviously when somebody else reads, they go, oh my gosh, did they just say that? But when you turn it over to a publisher, when you turn your manuscript over to a publisher, they have the say. And I know I've upset people at these festivals, because I said, I'm sorry, the publisher pays the writer, they pay the illustrator, they pay the printer, they pay for marketing, they pay for distribution. They should have a say in this. And I have a lot of faith in publishers because they have more experience of what's going to work. They're not going to do anything to your book that's deliberately going to kill it. That doesn't mean that sometimes they make a bad call, but trust me, they want to make money. They want you to make money because they make a lot of money. So they're not going to do anything to deliberately kill your book. On the other hand, you don't really have a say because you sold your baby. You sold your child into slavery. It is now the property of a publisher. And because you took the check, you can't have it, but it's just like, guys, I know I've talked, and you can see interviews with writers that have sold the rights to their books for movies, and there are some that get horribly upset that, that's not what I had in my book. And I've talked with writers that have been terribly disappointed, in the covers for their books, if they write for young adults or adults. And I try to explain to them, I said, you don't know what we get. Some publishers just give us, here's what you're going to do. And you can maybe make some suggestions, or you're given a white pages, which is a brief outline of what the book is. I try not to do any book covers unless they're willing to send me the whole manuscript. I want to read the whole thing. I want to give it a fair shot. But a lot of publishers won't do that. They won't give you the manuscript. And so you get this kind of, here's what the story's about, which is based on what the editor thinks it's about, which may not be about. And so things happen. I can't remember, what was the name of that one series? It was a detective series. And the illustrator put the guy in this kind of fedora hat. The author was just livid that he goes, that's not in the story. But the fans loved the look of this character. And so the publisher kept it. And so this author, it's a very successful series, and he's just livid about that cover. He goes, that's not in my book. And he tried to get him to take it out, and they wouldn't, because they just said, this works.
Yeah.
And it's worked. So that was it. I gotta quit making these answers so long. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. We have one more question here from David. Do you have any things you wish you had known starting out as an illustrator that would be helpful to fellow illustrators?
Everything.
Great.
Everything. Boy, if you take anything out, you might miss something. I think I wish I learned to enjoy the process more. Research is everything. I think the more information you have, everything from photographic reference doesn't mean it's not tracing, it's reference. I mean, if I asked all of you to draw me a cell phone without looking at it, you'd miss something. And so reference is this huge thing. I mean, early on, I kept thinking that somehow I had to have all this stuff in my head. What was I thinking? And it was expensive then to shoot reference, because you had to have a camera, first off, a good camera, and you had to get the film developed, which cost money, which no art student has. It's gotten a lot easier, and we didn't have Google. We had to go to libraries, take reference. And early on in my career, I don't think I utilized reference as much as I should have. So there was the answer, reference. The
Okay.
value of reference.
We have a few more minutes left on the call. If anybody else would like to throw out another question, we could probably do one more.
I mean, I'm good for as long as you guys want to go. I don't want to leave anybody's answers. I mean, you guys, I mean, you kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm fine.
Yeah. We are going to end it at 6 because I mean, I got to go
Okay.
home at some point.
All right. Well, that's fine. I just didn't want you to think that I cut it off. It's
No,
her fault.
it's me. I cut it off.
All right.
That's all cool.
Okay. And you're always welcome to send me questions too. If there was something that comes to you later, that's fine too. I'll do
Yeah.
my best. And I type really poorly, so it goes quickly. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm cutting down the
Oh,
time.
I was going to say, where can they find you to contact you?
Well, like I said, there's the website at markbraught.com. It's a real
Yeah.
simple one.
Yeah.
Simplicity is good.
Yeah. And what was your other website?
What was the question? Who had the question?
Which question? Oh, about
Did
where
you
they
say
can
there was
find
one
you?
more question?
No, I
Oh, was
just
that the
asked if
question?
anybody. Yeah, I was
Oh,
asking a
I
question.
thought there was one more. Oh,
No.
here, I see a chat thing. I didn't even punch that button.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even hit that button. I'm sorry.
That's where I've been finding the questions. So
Everything you wish you had done. Very cool. Thanks. Okay, cool. Was there any other question? That was Mark's
what was
speed reading class.
your graphic design website?
Oh, that's UP, and then there's a dash ideas.com.
Okay. And that one is you're partnered with someone else, right?
Yeah, a guy named Roger Sawhill,
Okay.
who's an excellent designer and an incredible whiz when it comes to computer stuff. I mean, he
Wow.
started back when Macs were still those white boxes, you know, as opposed to the really cool, you know, what we have now. I mean, I use a Mac Mini. I have enough power in that Mac Mini to do what I do, and I work on a Cintiq. So
Yeah. What
I
size
found that to
Cintiq?
be, it's a 22-inch. Yeah, I know. Uber. Hey, I got a good deal on it though. I really did. I saw it on eBay. I had never done eBay before, and this thing was under $1,000, and which is really,
Yeah.
I know it sounds like it, but it's, I think new they're like $2,000 or $2,500. There you can soup them up and pay more, but I won it. I won my very first eBay thing, and I was going, you know what? I'm going to get an empty shell because the guy lived in England. There's no way I could hunt the guy down. He'd get my money, and I'm going, I'm hosed. But if I was going to do this digital thing, I'm not comfortable with a mouse.
Yeah.
I still like a pen.
Yeah.
And this is great because it really is. It's like almost like working on paper. It takes a little getting used to, but I love it.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you're holding that while you're doing this talk.
Well, because I was like, yeah, it's because I'm sitting here and it's just habit. Whenever I see it, I pick it up because there's things like right before we did, I had to send a proof off for some business cards for one of my clients, and there was this back and forth. And so I got that taken care of before I left. But yeah, anytime I'm sitting here, there's always something that I should, you know. But fortunately, today's been really quiet, so which is nice. Only that one little fire.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
and then anything else, guys?
I think that might be about it for our questions, which it is 5:57, so we're probably going to wrap up anyway.
Cool.
It has
Well, it's
been
nice of you guys to kind of come and
Yeah.
hang. I mean, surely I'm sad you don't have anything better to do.
Well, it's always nice to hear from other artists,
Yeah, well,
you know.
things don't change. I mean, the frustration and all those things that I don't think I fret about them as much. Before they were catastrophic. And I think now it's like, okay, there isn't a painting that I do that I don't get partway through it and go, what have I done? You know, it just seems like it's a disaster. And I just have to keep, but now I'm comfortable with that I know that there's going to be that point in the painting where I feel like I've really blown it. And then it's that process of chasing it down and not giving up on it that it seems to come through. It starts off real optimistic and then it goes into a dark stage and
Yeah.
then it comes out at the end, hopefully okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, with no more questions, we will go ahead and close out for the evening. Remember that the reception for the jury show is this Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. The Zoom link is on the website at indstate.edu/cas/UAG. Write that down real fast.
And here I can type in.
Are you gonna write it down?
No, I'm writing this down. And then we can, and there's, just in case I didn't make it clear.
Yeah, and then the reception, I believe the link is also in an email. If you're an art student, you would have gotten that one already. And so Zoom links are out there. That'll be this Thursday. It'll be a reception and award ceremony from 4 to 6 p.m. And feel free to come by there, support your fellow art students in the awards and things
food.
there. No food. I mean, technically all the food, because you could bring your own.
You don't want to see what I'm gonna, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Just remember to have your mics off for that one. No chip chewing,
Oh,
please.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mark, for doing this talk tonight with us.
Oh, it's
been
fun.
Yeah, it's been
This is
fun.
relaxing. This is actually this is the fun part of the job. I don't
Yeah.
have to work. I can babble. And I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome, guys. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. Have a good night.